Hi, I'm JJ. Welcome back. So this is Tuesday, so it's Tag Tuesday, and I'm doing the Where Are You From tag. This was created by Patrick Book Reviews, and I was tagged by both Patrick and Derek Green at Derek Green 1. And so, if you can't tell, I'm from Michigan. I had done a video for Saracen early on in my start to booktube because he did a video for me about basically swords and Damascus information and stuff because I was talking about my blacksmithing, and I said, well, you did that for me, what can I do for you? And he wanted me to do something about Michigan. And so I did a whole bunch of, my favorite things about Michigan, some cool facts about Michigan, some research and stuff that I did about Michigan. So if you are interested, you can check out that video. But this is a specific tag, and so I'm going to answer these prompts differently, especially since these are fun too. Where were you born, and what was your town like? So I live in a small town in West Michigan, and my town, I always joked around because I have a huge family. In my town, I always joked and said that my town was my family, because my grandma always jokingly said that she would not let anyone move more than like 10 miles away. And she has, there was 6 in her family and 9 in my grandpa's family. And then, with all their kids and stuff, the majority of my great aunts and uncles all live within like a 5-mile radius. And then some of my cousins also, bought, land from them or given land from them or just moved close to them. So I always grew up with, multiple distant cousins. So I just call all of my family cousins, even though there were multiple tiers of how we were related. And I remember like we could ride a bus, and my bus, and I could be like every other one for like 4 or 5 miles would be like, that's a relative, that's a relative, that's a relative. And so that's what my town was like. So where do I live now, and what is it like? I live close to where I always grew up, so it's the same. I'm not as close as with a lot of my family these days. So now it's kind of almost, unfortunately, more of a burden that so much family is so close. But it, the ones that I get along with, I'm glad that they're nearby. I just wish that I just wish I guess I had a better relationship with them. And so, have I lived anywhere else? Yes, I lived for about 9 or 10 months in Santa Barbara, California, and also that about the same amount of time, 9 months or so, in Brooklyn, New York. And so I always try to escape and then somehow always end up back home. I do want to make the escape again someday, but those were the ones I tried, and I loved the experience in both of those places. Who are some of your favorite authors or works of literature from your home? I don't know a whole lot of specifically Michigan authors. My favorite is, and I talked about her multiple times, Angeline Boley. She is an indigenous author from Michigan, so she writes a lot about different Michigan stuff. And when she's talking about her, the tribal stuff, she's talking about like cities and stuff that I recognize. And so her famous works, she has 3 that are a series, a young adult mystery novels. The first one being The Firekeeper's Daughter. The second one is Warrior Girl on Earth, and then the newest one is Sisters of the Wind. the Sisters of the Wind one, if you're going to read them, you would want to read it chronologically, second though, because of how where it takes place. And then I guess so I guess there's like different moments. I saw somewhere where uh, is it Frank L. Baum who did Wizard of Oz? He like vacationed in by Lake Michigan, and some of that was what it inspired different aspects of his Wizard of Oz. I watched a documentary, and I wish I knew what it was called, but they were talking about like his inspiration, and like one of his neighbors or something when he was doing the vacationing may have been an inspiration for the character of Dorothy. And I don't know how sure all that is, but his family and stuff like to talk about that. And then also, I know Hemingway wrote a couple of short stories about the UP, which is the Upper Peninsula. But I don't know anyone other than those that like are famous for writing. I know that in Michigan we have a lot of we're huge into sports, but also music with Motown and stuff being in Detroit. So I guess it's more those things that we might be more famous for. And number 5, what's the book culture like where you live? So since I live in a small town, the book culture is pretty much non-existent, which is why I created this booktube channel so that I can actually talk about books with people. I don't have a lot of people in my everyday life who read or read as much as me or the same kind of books as me. And the library that I have that is closest to me is very small, so it doesn't have a whole lot of books. I'm always having to either get them online from the library app, or always have them special ordered, which is why I started my own book buying and collection and stuff, is because I didn't have a whole lot of access to books. And unfortunately, also, I live in a very conservative area, so my libraries do not carry the kind of books that I would want to read, because those are all the kinds that are trying to be banned and stuff like that. There was, I don't know if it was 2 years ago or like, yeah, I think it might have been 2 years ago. There were, a local library was in the news because they were wanting to ban a whole bunch of books. And then we had, you had the community involvement to try to say that those books were still should be on the shelves. So like that's the kind of culture and community I live in. And when I was saying that it's kind of unfortunate that I live in an area with so much family and stuff, I do not agree with so many of the politics of so many of my family members. So that's been hard as well, just because like I said, when I'm reading something, I can't talk about it with people in my life, because it is not at all what they would want to hear or believe. And I don't really talk to much of them now anyway, but I've had to actively seek out diversity in books, and so maybe the act of that, trying to do it on my own and making sure that I'm making that effort, is what has kind of shaped my reading life and stuff. And I think that, coming from a place where I was so secluded, and basically grew up with a bunch of family and everyone always believing, similarly, and me being one of them that steps out and sees things differently, has affected the way that I relate to characters in books as well, affects the way what I seek out, but also it does affect the way that you live within in a community when you're one of the outliers within it, especially in such a small town where everybody gossips, everybody knows your name, your family, everything. Um, my grandma would always say, like, when you started dating someone, that you had to bring her you home to meet her because she needed to let you know whether or not you were related. uh, and so, like, that's the atmosphere of of where I grew up and the reading atmosphere of this area. So yeah, just thinking differently, driving by and having everybody, especially in this administration right now, believing one way and me being the only one who doesn't, has makes it sort of an isolating experience. So reading is an escape in that way, and being able to talk about it and know that, like, even, you know, you guys who follow me aren't always reading the same books. You don't always have the same points of view. You don't even have the same views in a lot of the different stuff, but you are readers, and reading itself is not just an act of rebellion, but it's also an act of empathy. And I feel like that's what's lacking in a lot of the small culture where I am at. Is when you're not reading from multiple cultures, when you're not reading diversely, when you're not reading in general, you're lacking the ability um, to empathize with people who are different from you. And unfortunately, that can mean you're not empathizing with people with your own family. And so uh, that has that has been a difficult thing. And I, you know, not to overshare on media and stuff, but you know, obviously, since I read a lot of queer media, it should not be a jump to assume that that would be something that sets me apart from my family and has isolated me from a community that everybody else seems to fit in, that I do not. And so reading, once again, has been an escape. It has been a, not just an escape, but more a belonging, like a place to find yourself, a place to stretch your boundaries. And maybe that's why I am more empathetic and enjoy trying to learn about other cultures, is because I don't want to be that isolated, that closed-minded, and I actively try to fix that. And so being able to read and wrap myself up in a book, and see yourself in a book, see, even if you don't have the exact same experiences from what you're reading, to see their struggles and how similar some aspects of them are, but also to have this community that we've created together on BookTube. Also feel like you're wrapping yourself up in a warm hug of belonging. And it's unfortunately not something that every one of us here on YouTube gets in everyday life. Whether you're, you know, you have the same experience with me, whether you're from a big town or a small town. You know, sometimes even when I was living in a small town, I mean a big town, whenever I, you know, tried to escape and see what it was like, I guess the grass was greener or whatever. In a big town feels just as isolating, because you're amongst strangers rather than rather than the family and friends. And you once again don't know for sure where you can belong. And that can be just as isolating and just as scary, and it can shape your reading and habits and tendencies just as much. So I don't know. I didn't mean to get so in depth and so philosophical here, but it does affect the way that I choose to read and to engage with my reading and to engage with all of you. Because just like I said in an earlier video, we all bring our own baggage, our own biases, our own experiences into whatever we're reading. And it does shape how we interact with the characters, how we interact with the text, whether or not we feel like we're being reflected, or just having our entire reality ripped away and shown something so completely new. And uh, either way, where we come from does shape that. And so it's really hard to do this tag and then not talk about how that affects your reading. Like, you can, yes, you can talk about, where you're from and all this stuff, and kind of get to know each other. But I feel like we don't have to explain all this stuff to feel like we got to know each other, because you get to know each other through how they view the world around them through their reading. So I show you parts of myself and where I'm from and what I'm experiencing and how I see the world. I show you all that when I talk about the books that I read, when I review them, the books that I choose to read, the books, how my mind sees the correlations in different books, how the rabbit holes I go down to. All of that is me showing you me and where I'm from, and what my experiences are and how that has shaped my reading. So I feel like this is a fun stepping off point. But if you really want to get to know us and each other, we don't need to say where in the world we're from. It's more what in the world your experiences bring to the table, and how you can share that when you're recommending things with us and when you're reviewing things for us. So I look forward to seeing this tag. I've enjoyed watching others do this tag, but more so, I like that we can come from all over the world and create a community where we get to talk about books, how they affect us, and how they change us, and how them changing us changes our interactions with the worlds around us, and then how that just perpetuates into more and more growth, more and more community building, and this sense of belonging that many of us might miss in our real everyday lives. So anyway, that is my response to this video. Thank you for the people who tagged me. I'm sorry if I went a little too deep and you weren't expecting it, but that is who I am, and you asked where I'm from. And so, as I like to say sometimes, and I should say it more often, I just wanted to leave by saying thank you. You matter. I'm glad you exist. I see you. You are loved. You are enough. And please stay. Thank you, and happy reading.